Good morning, colleagues and learners. I'm Mr. Leo, Subject Advisor of Accounting from Harib District. We are going to have another session of bank reconciliation for grade 11. Remember, we started yesterday on the 16th. We had 2 sessions yesterday on the bank reconciliation. We were addressing the changes in terms of bank reconciliation for 2021. So make sure that you follow yesterday's link so that you can get information of yesterday. But we'll continue with another session today. We were talking about bank reconciliation. So let's check now the procedure in terms of bank reconciliation. We have said a lot of things yesterday, but we'll also emphasize some of the things also today. Let's check now. We check now the procedure. It says bank reconciliation procedure. Regular checking of accounting entries is essential, which is very important to ensure that the records are accurate. So remember, we said bank reconciliation is a process of reconciling our books with the bank information. We are having 2 sets of information. We are having our bank as well as our business records. So we are comparing the 2 records and to make sure and identify some mistakes. So all deposits, which is point number 2, all deposits are checked against the credit column of the bank statement. You'll see when you start with the bank reconciliation in grade 11, some few starting activities, you'll be given a full CRJ, a full CPJ, as well as a bank statement. Now, what are you going to do? You start by comparing the 2. Remember, the CRJ and the cash payment journal represent the business records, and the bank statement represent the bank records. So you are preparing the CRJ for the whole month as well as the CPJ, and then you wait until the end of the month to receive a bank statement from your bank. After receiving the bank statement, then you begin with that process of checking and comparing if all the information or all the entries that appear on the CRJ and the CPJ, which is the bank, the business records, are they the same as the ones on the bank records. So all deposits are checked against a credit column. Remember, we said every time you deposit the money, bank will credit your account. So you compare your CRJ with the credit column of the bank statement or the plus sign. Sometimes they are indicated in one column of a balance column. Next to each and every amount, there will be a sign there. So a plus sign will go hand in hand with our amounts in the cash receipts journal. All EFT payments are checked against the debit column of the bank statement. Remember, we said every time you withdraw the money, every time you make payments, bank debit your account. So if they are using 2 columns on that bank statement, you'll see a debit column and a credit column. Credit column with all the deposits, and the debit column will show all the payments. Or they use the signs, the positive sign for the CRJ and the negative sign for the CPJ. So you start that process of comparing. If item appear on the CRJ and also on the bank statement, you tick it out, then it's correct, no problem with that one. But all other figures that will appear on the CRJ and not on the bank statement, you'll begin to circle them so that you take into account of such information. The bank column of the CRJ and the CPJ in our books should correspond with the bank column in the bank statement, which is the bank books. So it must be the same. I said yesterday, if you receive 10,000 today, you are running your business, you receive 10,000 today, by the end of today when you close the shop or tomorrow morning, you deposit the money. Later on, after that month, end of the month, when you receive the bank statement, what do you expect? You expect the same amount that you received, that you recorded in your CRJ, it must appear on the bank statement. But because of some reasons, it won't be the same sometimes. So we have done some of the possibilities of such mistakes yesterday. So please make sure. The last part, the relationship is a debtor and a creditor. So between the business and the bank, the relationship between the two set of books is the debtor and a creditor. So let's move to the next slide. Let's check, for example, in our books, we have a debit balance. It means we have money with the bank. But what will happen in the bank's books? The bank will credit our account. So if you deposit the money, you receive the money, in your books you debit bank. But when you deposit the money into the bank, on another side, bank will credit your account. So if you have a debit balance in your books, it means you have money. But if you have a credit balance from the bank statement, it means you have a money. So liability in the bank's records. So it's asset in our records, but if it's credit on the bank statement, it means bank owes us money. But if it's a debit balance on the bank statement, it means we are owing bank money in terms of overdraft. The second one, EFT payments decrease our assets. If we pay, bank will decrease. EFT payments decreases the bank's liability. So remember, if we pay, we do EFT, the transfer will go straight to the bank, which is electronic funds transfer, and the bank will take care of that such transfer, and then it means to us it decreases the money that we are having as a result of that entry. So it's a credit entry in our business. In another side of the bank, it's a debit entry. Remember, I'll say again, if you debit, you deposit the money, bank will credit your amount. From the business, we debit. If we withdraw the money in our business, we credit, but bank will debit. So it's like a debtor and a creditor relationship. So next point, items appearing on the bank's records and not in our records. Remember, our record is CRJ and CPJ, and the bank records is the bank statement. So items appearing on the bank statement and not in the CRJ and the CPJ will be entered in our records. It means if they appear on the bank statement and not in the CRJ and the CPJ, we must take them back to our records, which is the CRJ and the CPJ. Items appearing in our records, it means they appear in our CRJ and our CPJ and not on the bank statement. We will enter them in the bank reconciliation statement. Remember, the CRJ, the CPJ, and the bank account is not new to you in grade 11 because we have done them in grade 10. The one statement that is totally new to you in grade 11 is bank reconciliation statement. So, okay, it's fine. Let's move to the next slide. Reasons why the balances of the bank account differ from that shown on the bank statement. Remember, we are saying the two sets of information, they won't agree. In our CRJ and the CPJ, when we compare with bank statement, they won't agree. They won't be the same because of the following reasons. The first one is bank charges. Remember, what we also emphasize is that bank charges is the account which is an expense to the business, but we have items, small items that are regarded as bank charges. We made an example of a cash handling fee, EFT fees, service fees, and so on. So those small items that we see from our bank statement of cash handling fee, service fee, EFT payments, or EFT fees, those small items are regarded as bank charges. So we don't record them independent or one by one in our CPJ, but we record them as a total amount as bank charges. We have done bank charges in grade 10 last year, so it's not a new thing altogether. So the second one, but remember, bank charges will be recorded in the CPJ because it's part of our expenses. Interest on overdraft or interest on loan will be the CPJ. Remember, if we are having the loan and we are charged interest, we'll only see that from the statement, the bank statement, not in our CPJ. We'll see it first on our bank statement, Therefore, when we compare our CPJ with the bank statement, it won't appear on our CPJ, but it will appear on the bank statement. Interest on overdraft and interest on loan, these two items are interest expense, so they will be recorded in the CPJ. Next one is interest on current account or interest on fixed deposit. Remember, interest on current account is part of the incomes. Interest on fixed deposit is also part of the incomes. They will be recorded in the cash receipts journal. As a result, the business is receiving the money, so it must go to the cash receipts journal. Remember, this information will only appear on the bank statement and not in the journals, the first three. The outstanding deposit, this outstanding deposit, it will only appear in our CRJ. Remember, we said all amounts under bank column in the CRJ represent deposits, because after receiving the money, we close that transaction on our CRJ. Remember, in our CRJ in grade 10, we are using analysis of receipt column for such information. If we have more than one on the same, we underline and we take the total amount to bank column. So it means, as a result, we are supposed to deposit the money. In terms of internal control over cash, we are supposed to deposit the money daily. So some amounts might appear only in the CRJ and not in the bank statement. Such information, if they are from the CRJ, then they are outstanding deposits. Where are we going to record them? In our bank reconciliation statement under credit. Remember, we said every time you deposit the money, bank will credit your account. So it will be an outstanding deposit under credit column in the bank reconciliation statement. Outstanding EFTs, remember we said we might have outstanding EFTs because remember we talked about scheduling the EFT, or you are transferring money to a person who's not using the same bank as yours, so you transfer the money. So the person will not receive the money on time, or the transfer will not appear on the bank statement on time. Remember, we said if I'm making a transfer today, I'm using my bank app, I'm using my cell phone or any gadget. I'm transferring today and it's the last day of the month, which is the 31st of January, and I'm sending money to the person who's not using the same bank as mine. For my side, when I'm preparing the CPJ, I'll record it on the same day that I've made the transfer, which is the 31st of January. But the person receiving the money will not get it on the same day because of the person using a different bank. So it will appear maybe after 2 days, 3 days or so. It will only depend when was the EFT done. Was it done during the day? Was it done during the bank hours? Was it done over the weekend or so on? Remember what we said yesterday, and we'll continue to emphasize, because we are learning about EFT for the first time as learners in grade 11. So make sure that you Google, you visit the internet, you check any banking details so that you learn more about EFTs. Stop order and debit orders, they will be in the CPJ. Remember, we can make an arrangement with the bank to deduct the money directly, or with another business to deduct the money directly into our bank account. So stop orders or debit orders in terms of insurance. We made an example of a car. If you buy a car, you have a vehicle, you are paying insurance on that one, but you are not going personally to the insurance company to pay that money. So you just arrange with the service provider or that company, and then they take their money directly from your bank account. You are not going to be aware of such debit orders unless you receive a bank statement. Definitely, you'll also, if we have other gadgets, you can get information through your bank notifications and so on, but it won't appear on your CPJ until you get your bank statement. The last one, direct bank deposit made by debtors or direct EFTs made by debtors or tenants. Remember, you can have a tenant living far from you. The tenant, you just give the tenant or a debtor your banking details, your account number, and then a tenant will just directly deposit the money at the end of the month. You are not going to receive the cash in the business because tenant will not come to the business personally to pay the money. So you are not going to see that money so that you can record immediately in your cash receipt journal. So it won't appear in our CRJ, but when we get the bank statement, then we'll see such deposits that were directly deposited into our bank account. In that case, such deposit will only appear on our bank statement and not in our CRJ. Then we'll record them in our CRJ. Okay, let's move. I hope the theory part makes sense now. So let's check the question. We are on question 2 because we have done question 1 yesterday. We are doing question 2 today. Remember, I said after the theory, we are also going to check the possible exam type questions. So this is question 2, bank reconciliation. The following information relates to David Traders March 2021. You are supposed to prepare the cash receipt journal on March 2021. Prepare the bank account to March 2021. Remember, the CRJ and the CPJ for 24 marks is not new. You have done the CRJ and the CPJ last year in grade 10. You have done bank account. Number 3 for 7 marks, the bank reconciliation statement. That is the only thing that you are seeing for the first time in grade 11. Information A, on 1st March 2021, the bank account in the general ledger reflected an unfavorable balance of 15,200. Remember, I said unfavorable balance represent bank overdraft. So it means it reflected an overdraft amount. So unfavorable and overdraft is the same thing. So in examination, they might use the term unfavorable or the term bank overdraft or overdraft. So we are having overdraft. What does overdraft or unfavorable balance means? It means as a business at the beginning of the month, 1st of March 2021, we are owing bank money. Remember what I said before? I said the business and the bank, we are having a debtor and a creditor kind of relationship. So this time, we are owing bank money, so it means bank is a creditor to us and we are a debtor to the bank because we are owing bank money. Remember I said if you deposit the money, you are having money, bank will credit your account, then you debit bank in your books. But if you are owing bank money, you will credit the bank in your books and the bank will debit your account as a debtor. So you'll see that on the bank statement. Information number B, totals from the cash journals on 31st March 2021. Cash receipt journal 46,200, cash payment journal 74,300. Remember, this is the information as given. Let's move. Information C, the following information on the March 2021 bank statement received from BR Bank did not appear in the March 2020 cash journals. It's very important that you read the statement and you understand exactly what happened. According to information C, this information that we are going to check now, they are saying the following information on the March bank statement. It means they appear only on the bank statement and they did not appear in our cash journals. Which ones are cash journals? Is our CRJ and our CPJ, the cash receipt journal and the cash payment journal. So you must know if they appear on the bank statement and not on the cash journals, where are we supposed to record them? The first one, an EFT to earn now 9,600 for the business monthly rent. This time we are not receiving the rent. we are paying the rent. So it's a rent expense. Remember, in terms of rent, we have a rent that is an expense to the business. We also have a rent that is also an income to the business. With rent income, it will be recorded in the cash receipt journal. With rent expense, it will be recorded in the cash payment journal. So a debit orders, Nala Municipality 1,500 for water and electricity. We paid this one. We arrange with the bank and the business that the municipality will take their money in terms of stop order. We are not going to see it. We are only going to see it after receiving the bank statement. Forsaker 6,000. Insurance 1,500 for the private residence of the owner. So we paid how much? We paid 6,000 for insurance and 1.5 for the private residence, which is 1,500 for the private residence of the owner. So we'll see how we deal with that transaction. AG investments, we paid how much? 10,200 for investment matured. What is investment? Is our fixed deposit. Investment matured and the interest for the year of 1,200. EFT fees 160, cash handling fee 80 rand, service fees 250, interest on unfavorable balance, which is interest on overdraft balance, is 120. A deposit from a debtor P. Jacobs for 4,500 in settlement of his account, and a deposit of 8,000 was reflected on the business bank statement. This deposit does not relate to the business and must be corrected by the bank. Remember, we said any mistake on the bank statement, it must be corrected on the bank reconciliation statement. So under AG investment, we are having a number of transactions that took place. So let's check the first one. We said is rent income. It will be rent expense, it will be in the CPJ. The water and electricity will also be in the CPJ. The insurance that was paid will also be in the CPJ. The investment matured and the interest for the year. If it's maturing, it means it has expired. We are getting it back from the bank. EFT fees, cash handling fee, service fee, and such things. Remember, we said those are the items of bank charges, except the interest expense and interest income, which is interest on unfavorable balance or interest on bank overdraft, is not part of the bank charges. It will be recorded separate. Let's move to the next one, information D. The following information in March 2021 cash journals did not appear in the bank statement for March. Remember, with information C, they appeared on the bank statement and not in the journals. With information D, they appear on the journals but did not appear on our bank statement. The outstanding deposit, remember we said any entries appearing on the journals and not on the bank statement, they'll go to bank reconciliation statement. Any items appearing on the bank statement and not on the journals, they'll go back to the journals. Outstanding deposit of 23,400, EFT number 120 for 9,220 to GF stores for consumables purchased, EFT 125 for 4,790 to AR traders for stationery purchased. So they appear in our journals but not on the bank statement. Remember, I said with EFT it's possible because you might do a transfer and then it appears afterwards, or the last day of the month, and then you'll only get the bank statement in the following month or so on. Information E, balance according to bank statement on 31st March 2021. It's question mark. If it's like that, it means it's an unknown figure. We're supposed to calculate that figure. So let's check. You'll be given the answer sheet in accounting, so it won't be a problem. The cash receipt journal and the cash payment journal, that is the format of the answer sheet. Remember, we said you are not going to get a lot of columns. You are only going to get bank and amount and details, bank, amount and details column. So we are not going to get a lot of columns like in grade 10 CRJ and CPJ, because in bank reconciliation we are only interested in the bank column. We are going to use the sundry accounts details to show the name of the accounts. So we also know the bank account. We're supposed to prepare the bank account, so we know the format of the bank account, and then the format of the bank reconciliation, it will have a debit column and a credit column. So I said even yesterday that you must remember to check the format of the bank reconciliation statement. So let's check the cash receipt journal, the solution. Remember, we have the totals. We can go back to information A and information B. If you check information B there, the totals are given. So on the answer sheet, they are also given. If they are not given, then you'll have to start with such totals. 46,200 in the CRJ, 74,300 in the CPJ. So let's check another entry. We remember we talked about in the CRJ, we talked about the AG investment, that the investment matured. I said if the investment matured, you are getting it back. It means, remember, with investment, you are investing it for a certain period. After that period, is coming back to the business. That is what we call the investment matured. So it is maturing. It means it has expired. Now it's coming back to the business. In that case, it becomes a receipt to us. We are receiving the money. But if you do the investment, it will be a CPJ, because now you are investing the money, then you are paying the money. All right, so we have 1,200, which is part of the interest. Remember, 10,200, according to the information, the 10,200 was paid, but for two things. We received 10,200 for the investment matured and the interest of 1,002. So it means 10,200 is for two accounts, which is the fixed deposit and the interest on fixed deposit, which is the investment, AG investments, as well as 1,200 for interest on investment or interest income. P. Jacobs, he deposited the money directly into our bank account, settling his account. So we are receiving the money. It will be CRJ 4,500 and amount 4,500, details debtors control. Remember, I said as much as what we have done in grade 10 in the CRJ and the CPJ, we are doing the same thing in grade 11. The details column on your left, you write the name of the business or the person from whom the business received money. And then your details column on your right, under sundry accounts, you indicate the name of the account that we are receiving the money for. And then you'll add everything now. 46,200 plus 10,200 plus 4,500, it will give us 60,900, which is the total receipts. All right, with the CPJ, let's check. 74,300, we started with that one. We have 9,600 for rent expense. Remember, we talked about that, the debit order and the stop order. We paid Nala municipality with a debit order also. Water and electricity, 1,500, it will be CPJ. We paid also for Saker 6,000 rand for insurance. But remember, the transaction said we paid 6,000 for two things. Let's go back to the transaction. It says 6,000, that is what we have paid. For what? For insurance, and 1,500 for private residence of the owner. So anything to do with the private expense of the owner is not part of our expenses, then it becomes drawings because it's personal use. So we write 6,000 in the bank because that is the total amount that we have paid. Under sundry accounts amount, we record them separate because it's two different accounts. It's 4,500 for insurance and 1,500 for drawings. How do we get 4,500? We'll say 6,000 minus 1,500 to get 4,500. The last one is our bank charges. Remember, we add everything together is 610, but I said bank charges and interest will be recorded separate. So 490 will be bank charges and 120 will be our interest on overdraft. Remember those small items that you're supposed to add to give you bank charges. Let's go back to that transaction so that you can see. We said EFT fees, which is 160. If you add 160 plus 80 rand plus 250, it will give us that 490, which is our bank charges. So don't record the bank charges separate in or independent in your CPJ. You must know the items of bank charges, you add them together and you record them as one figure. And then you will have the total of the bank column. Remember, you're supposed to add also the given figure on the answer sheet, 74,300 plus 9,600 plus 1,500 plus 6,000 plus 610. It will give us 92,010, which is our total payment. With our bank statement, bank account, remember we said the 15,200 is an unfavorable balance on the first day of March. So it will be recorded on the credit side of bank account. If it's unfavorable or a credit balance, it will be on the credit. If it's favorable balance or debit balance, it will be on the debit side. So 15,200 on the credit side because it's an unfavorable balance. Total payments or sundry accounts from the CPJ, 92,010. On the debit side, we have the total receipt, that is from the cash receipt journal. The total amount of the column, bank column in the CRJ is 60,900. So when we balance, we'll add the two, 15,200 plus 92,010. It will give us 107,210. In this case, our credit side is more than debit side. So we'll say 107,210. We subtract 60,900 and we are left with 46,310 as our balance carried down on the side with a smaller figure, which is our debit side this time, and we transfer it to the credit side, which is the side with a more or bigger amount on the first day of the following month, which is 2021 April the 1st. Balance brought forward or balance brought down 46,310. So you must take note of what we have done yesterday and what we are doing now today. Yesterday we had a favorable balance. Today we are having unfavorable balance. Yesterday the closing balance was on the debit side. Today with this activity, which is question 2, we are having a closing balance on the credit side, which is possible because remember I said between the business and the bank, the relationship is that one of a debtor and a creditor. It means in a particular month, we might end up with a balance that we have money in the bank. In another month, we might end up with a balance that we are owing bank money. Let's check the next one. Balance according to bank statement, it was not given. Remember, is that information E with a question mark? So this one, we are not going to get it now because it was not given. Credit outstanding deposit, remember we said those are the deposit that will only appear under your cash receipt journal and not in your bank statement. So they'll go to the credit side of bank reconciliation statement as outstanding deposit. Debit outstanding EFTs, remember the EFTs that we have made, but they did not appear on the bank statement. They appeared only on our cash payment journal. So they are outstanding, which is 9,220 and 4,790. We have a debit amount wrongly credited. Let's go back to that one, the 8,000. There is the transaction. They are saying there a deposit of 8,000. Remember, this one is a deposit. So if it's a deposit, what does it mean? It means if we deposit the money, bank will debit our account. A deposit of 8,000 was reflected on the bank statement. This deposit does not relate to the business and must be corrected by the bank. Remember, it's a deposit, but it was not done by us. It was not done by our business. So it means the bank made a mistake of indicating a deposit in our bank account by mistake. Remember, I said when you deposit, bank will credit your account. So it means it was credited by mistake in our bank account. It was not supposed to be in our bank account because it belongs to another business. It relates to other business and not our business. So it was not supposed to be on our bank statement. So if a bank made a mistake, it will be corrected in the bank reconciliation statement. So it's a debit amount wrongly credited. It was credited by mistake. As a result, how do we correct the mistake? We debit the amount that was wrongly credited to cancel the wrong entry that was done by the bank. So it will be on the debit. If it was debited by mistake, then we'll credit and record it in the credit column. If it was debited by mistake, remember we credit. If it was credited by mistake, then we debit. So that is the story. The credit balance according to bank account is from the bank account that we have prepared. This balance, remember, because it's on the credit, because credit side is more than debit, it will be a credit balance. If it goes to the bank reconciliation, it will also be on the credit. Remember, the balance according to bank account will not always be credit, will not always be debit. It can either be debit or credit. It will depend on our bank account if it's favorable balance or unfavorable balance. The same as with the balance from the bank statement. It will either be a debit balance or a credit balance. Now, according to this, because we don't have a bank balance from the bank statement, we have 23,400 as outstanding deposit and 46,310. In this case, credit column is more than debit, because debit we are having only these three figures. We'll say 23,400 plus 46,310. It will give us 69,710, and then it must be the same as the debit. And then because the balance as per bank statement, it's a balancing figure, we'll take 69,710, subtract 8,000, subtract 4,790, and we also subtract 9,920, and then we'll have the balancing figure as 47,700. So that is the story of the bank reconciliation, and this brings us to the end of today's lesson. Please do check yesterday's link with your teachers and then follow it, and then also check today's presentation. But with you teachers, remember we are using EFT now in 2021 in bank reconciliation, but you must also check in grade 10. Remember, term 1 in grade 10 we are also doing the cash receipt journal and the CPJ, which is the cash payment journal, teachers. So remember, also in grade 10 we are no longer going to be talking about checks in the cash payment journal. We're supposed to be talking about the EFT, because the checks, as we have explained in our meetings, they were phased out last year on 31st December 2020. So our accounting part in terms of checks must change now. So I hope everything is fine. We'll have our third session on bank reconciliation sometime next week, or next week Monday, and then we'll take the last session on bank reconciliation. Thank you very much for today. Bye.